Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a video all about pawn breakthroughs. We're going to be taking you from a very basic level, what a pawn breakthrough even is, to more advanced and complicated examples. Now, pawn breakthroughs are super important when it comes to pawn endgames, so let's just jump straight in. A pawn breakthrough is a situation where, by virtue of sacrificing one or multiple pawns, you create a passed pawn which is dangerous and will soon promote and win the game. So let's look at this through an example. Now, in this situation, what you'll notice is that the pawns are completely symmetrical. And if anything, Black's king is a little bit closer to the action. So if anyone was better, it might seem like Black is better, maybe even winning. But that is actually not the case. And you can even just remove these two kings off the board, and miraculously, this seemingly symmetrical and neutral situation is winning for white if it's white to move. So the way that you win this is that you push b6, and they have to take. If they push, you're going to take the other pawn and win the game immediately. And now you're not just going to trade all of the pawns. Of course, this is going to be a very equal position, and once again, in certain situations, Black even could be the one that is fighting for more. But after they take back, what you're going to do is push your c-pawn in this case. And the idea is that you're threatening to take on b7 and promote, and so they have to get rid of this c-pawn, but now you push a6. And what you've done is you sacrifice your b and c pawns in order to clear up the a file so your a pawn promotes. Now, symmetrically, if they were to take like this, you go a6, they take, and now you push c6. And again, you create that passed pawn. So this is a very simple and well-known example, but it goes to show how in situations where it seems like no side can make progress, I mean, this is as equal as it gets. It's not actually that equal, and white can be the one that pushes for more here. And that really stems from the fact that their pawns are far more advanced than the black pawns. You can certainly imagine if we take all of these 6 pawns, push them further down the board, it could be a flipped reverse situation where Black is the one that can use a pawn breakthrough to create a passed pawn and win the game. Now, this is a very simple example, as I said. Let's jump into a slightly more advanced situation where we get rid of the symmetry. So this is perhaps a bit more realistic to what you might find in a normal pawn endgame situation. And you can see that, well, it's very complicated. If you simply count out the material, it's equal, but that's far from the end of the story because there's a lot of inequalities. The pawns are not symmetrical. There's this f pawn that is uncontested. White has this sort of very nice center, solid pawn structure. This pawn, namely on d4, is very strong where it can push whenever it wants, and it's very nicely defended. And it doesn't seem like Black can actually make progress here, but indeed they can. So I'd urge you to pause the video and try to find the solution. The move here is b4, which is pretty incredible because this is so unintuitive. This square on b4 is very nicely guarded by both of these pawns. It seems inaccessible, but indeed b4 breaks open and crashes through. And it's quite a simple calculation. If they take with the c pawn, you go c3 and then b2, and your pawn is well quick enough to promote. And similarly, if they take with the a pawn, you go a3 and once again b2, and we reach actually the same situation. Now, what you should notice here is that pawn breakthroughs are very rarely a natural move, and more often than not, you're going to have to think outside the box. And so I think that learning about pawn breakthroughs are also good when it comes to expanding the moves that you consider, because again, b4 is not a move that you likely would have considered if you just evaluate that they have so much control here. But when you realize you have 4 pawns, they only have 3 defenders along these 3 files, let's open things up and try to calculate and see if we can get that one pawn to promote. Indeed, the calculations work. I should mention, they don't have to take here, for example, or, here they don't have to take. They could play other moves, but everything wins here. And if you're so inclined, you can definitely calculate this a bit further on your own. But suffice to say that b4, Black wins. Ladies and gentlemen, that takes us to a final example to end the video here today. And we're going back to symmetry, but I think this one's again a useful one to kind of show you the power of pawn breakthroughs, because an otherwise completely equal looking position is in fact winning for white, because they are to move here and their pawns are again slightly more advanced than their counterparts. And even though the king is closer to the mess, that's irrelevant. These pawns independently can win. So I'd urge you to pause once again and try to find the solution. Now there's a couple of approaches here. They're going to likely transpose. Let's look at the move c5, which indeed wins. Now if they take, it's quite clear to see that after you take back, there's no stopping the move d6, which would create an inevitable pawn that would promote. And so after the move c5, the real question is, what if they don't take? And so what if they just spend the time getting their king closer? Well, you can't take. That would be an equalized situation. In fact, because the king is now closer, black is winning here. And again, that is the fear. And so you're not going to take. You're instead going to push your other pawn. And once again, advance your pawns as much as they can go. And the idea is that if they take this one, well, now you have two pawns that are both trying to kind of overpower this pawn on b7, and they do a great job. c6 and a6, and the pawn pushes, symmetrically. Again, if they take like this, you go b6 and d6, and the pawn pushes to promotion. So again, there might be a bit more variations you want to calculate. What if they do nothing, for example, again, and let's say they come to d3? Well, here there is already a plethora of different ways that you can go about promoting. c6 seems to be very natural to me. If they take, you can take on a6. If they instead push, again, million ways to promote. You can take on a6 again. You can take here and then push your c pawn. Many ways to get that one pawn push. The critical line, once again, was if they take, to see this idea over here. So as a quick overview, when you have a pawn endgame, always look for creative and sometimes seemingly inaccessible ways to get your pawns up the board, because sometimes sacrificing one or two, or there are examples where you sacrifice up to 5, 6 pawns to get that one to promote. That is the way that you approach these positions. And ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new around here, like this video if you learned something new from it, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.